Malika Andrews, my colleague, who everybody saw I got into an issue with on First Take months ago, and I had to check that situation. If you're not going to fire him, then don't fire him. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening.
And so here we go again, back with another one. Welcome to the Dark Times channel. And before I get started, make sure you guys go ahead and hit that like button for me. I definitely appreciate that. And if you're not new to the channel and you enjoy the content on this channel so far, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me as well. And so let's go ahead and get into it. Recently, I came across an interview on the Paul George podcast with Stephen A. Smith. And I believe Stephen A. Smith and Paul George had a little back and forth on social media in regards to how the media treats players and how the players treat the media. And so instead of going back and forth on social media and this and that, they decided to go ahead and hash it out on Paul George's podcast. And from what I saw from the interview, I thought it was a pretty positive interaction between the two, and it was pretty enlightening, especially on the part of Stephen A. Smith. But something I did not expect to come out of Stephen A. Smith's mouth was Malika Andrews. From the most part, and what I've seen in the media is that Malika Andrews is somebody that has been damn near untouchable. Nobody's brought her up. Nobody's mentioned her. Jalen Rose, I believe, mentioned her fleetingly only because he had to. And y'all remember when Malika Andrews accused Jalen Rose of having his hands in her armpit, when we clearly saw that Jalen Rose's hands were nowhere near Malika Andrews' armpits. And so aside from Jalen Rose addressing that, she's been pretty much untouchable, and nobody has mentioned Malika Andrews, especially in a negative way. And so Stephen A. Smith is going to say something interesting about his colleague Malika Andrews, and I'm going to go ahead and let the clip play, and then of course I'll chime in along the way.
Malika Andrews, my colleague, who everybody saw I got into an issue with on First Take months ago, and I had to check that situation. She getting crucified during leading into the draft because she's asking Brandon Miller a question or bringing up somebody's past. She had an obligation to ask those questions. She did her job. If she doesn't do her job, she's off the air. They're like, what we need you for? This question. And by the way, it's not subliminal. They literally have an IFB in their ear, and they're telling them, ask the question. Ask the question. The difference between me and most, I have the power to take the IFB out. Shut the hell up.
And so Stephen A. Smith is pretty much echoing the same thing that I've been saying on this platform, on how Malika Andrews and somebody like Candace Owens are essentially the same person, but they're both tools. Malika Andrews is a tool for the liberal media, Disney and ESPN, and somebody like Candace Owens is a tool for the conservative networks because of their melanated skin. Somebody like Malika Andrews and Candace Owens can get away with saying some of the most vile and hellacious things that a so-called white person couldn't get away with saying, couldn't dream of getting away with. And so what the conservatives and the liberals came up with was getting a mascot and making sure they have mascots in every corner, in every outlet of media. If Rachel Nichols, who was a former ESPN anchor, if she said half of the things that Malika Andrews said, she would have been fired a long time ago. And that's the very reason why ESPN got rid of Rachel Nichols. They knew that with somebody like Rachel Nichols, they were only going to be able to get away with so much, because Rachel Nichols would have been called out a long time ago for saying half the stuff that Malika Andrews gets away with saying. But if it's a black face, you got no case.
At West Virginia once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault. 2009, he paid a $100 fine and court costs, plus had to do 40 hours of community service. Now, that was 13 years ago. He settled and paid both fines. So
the University of Alabama has described Miller as a cooperating witness. How is this factoring, if at all, into how teams evaluating him?
Yeah, Malika. I don't think it would be brought up at all if it wasn't for Malika just bringing it up on national television right now.
And so when ESPN came across a Malika Andrews, a young Malika Andrews, who was hungry for the attention, hungry for the spotlight, ready to further her career, willing to do anything and everything, allegedly, to further her career. When they came across somebody like that, and they had a tool like that within their possession, you're damn right they were going to promote her. You're damn right they were going to elevate her. You're damn right they were going to promote somebody like that across ESPN. Just like Stephen A. Smith said, Malika Andrews has somebody in her ear at all times telling her what to say, what questions to ask, what not to say. And if it wasn't Malika Andrews, it would have been somebody else. They would have found another tool. Because unfortunately, tools come a dime a dozen. Because of people's love of money and love of status and different idolatry, you can always find a good tool. Tools are easy to find. That's why it's hard to blame the tool. It really is. Because if it wasn't them, it would be somebody else. And so at the very least, it's a black person getting paid. And that's kind of how I look at it. I don't really look at it as simplistic as I used to look at it before. I don't get upset at this melanated person that they choose to put on the screen in front of me and spew all kind of talking points. I'm beyond that. I look at the system. I don't blame the individual, because like I said, these tools come a dime a dozen. And so shout out to Stephen A. Smith for telling the truth, telling you like it is. It's what I've always known. It's what we've always known for the most part. They've got somebody in their ear. They've got bosses. They've got different people in their ear telling them exactly what to say. And if your boss is money and your God is money, then you do what God says. And so you never know. If it wasn't Malika Andrews, it might be you. Shit, it might be me. You never know. And so I think that's going to be a wrap on this particular video. Definitely go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. And if you're not new to the channel and you enjoy the content on this channel, make sure you go ahead and subscribe as well. And as usual, peace and chaos.